Welcome to Law Officer Live. It is April 12th, 2017. If you can believe that, time is flying by and you do not want to miss this episode. We're going to have a phenomenal episode with our in-house SWAT expert, Jason Muse, in the house. We're going to have representatives from BeaverFit USA in the house. You're going to love that. We're going to talk about some phenomenal articles that are playing right now on lawofficer.com. My name is Travis Yates. I'm the editor-in-chief of lawofficer.com, and I'm very humbled and proud to host Law Officer Live, which airs every Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. And we're going to ask all of you watching, whether it's live on YouTube or live on Facebook or live on our website, lawofficer.com, to take and spread this around. Hit the link, share it on Facebook, and send this around. It's very important for us, and I think for our society, that people know what law enforcement's narrative is. Very few people are really telling the truth about law enforcement. There's really sort of a false narrative that flies around about law enforcement. And what we do here on Law Officer Live is bring you the truth from a law enforcement perspective. And we're very proud to do that. So send that around. It's the only show, it's the only live show for law enforcement and by law enforcement. And we try to bring you the greatest guests and the greatest topics each and every week. And we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for our sponsor this week, which is Blue Armor Supplements. Blue Armor is the only supplement company made for law enforcement, by law enforcement. And also, more importantly, they are GMP certified. That's good manufacturing practices. And what that means is that what is on the label is actually in the bottle. I know some of you are saying, well, I take supplements, and I look at the label and I take what's on the label, but here's the problem. Unless this supplement is GMP certified, there is no guarantee what is on that label is actually in the supplements. This really became a passion for us when a friend of ours got popped with a hot drug test by his agency. And he was taking supplements that he bought over the counter. But what happened was, inside the supplements were illegal banned substances that the label did not show. Our supplement of the week is Energy. This is one of my favorites. You can get it at bluearmor.com. It is 30 little packets. You just put the packet in your uniform pocket, you dump it in a bottle of water, you shake it up. It is awesome. 90 grams of caffeine, I believe, long lasting. It's good stuff. I know a lot of us, especially working nights and graveyard, are taking the Monsters and the Red Bulls. This is not what that is. This is natural, good healthy B12s and vitamins in there with you. You will notice a difference if you take this. If you go to our website, you'll see plenty of folks in our audience that have left reviews for that product, and they love that product. And if you buy it tonight and type in the word excellence in the coupon code, you're going to get a 10% off. 10% off of your entire purchase if you purchase that tonight. Just type in the word excellence, all lower characters. And you can find out more about this phenomenal company and these phenomenal products at bluearmor.com.
One of the things, again, going back to your superhero days and growing up, when you become a law enforcement officer, somewhere in the back of your head, you're thinking, I want to be that cop.
My life is a journey dotted by people along the way who saw something in me, something I didn't see in myself. They cheered me on, pushed me forward, and played an important role in my transformation.
We need to think about who we are trying to communicate with. We need to think about what we're trying to communicate.
All of the tips and training that we provide in the academy, yet so many young officers don't know how to protect the ego.
And we're collectively standing on the edge of a cultural abyss, a deep and widening gap of mistrust among us versus them.
We have created a culture where it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to ask for help. Your job is not going to be affected. You will be supported by the organization.
And my challenge for you is, will today be your day to grow courage from failure?
That's WinX 2017 in Chicago, Illinois, April 25th, 2017, just a few weeks away. And we are honored here at lawofficer.com to be the premier media company working with WinX. We exclusively will hold the content for the next year of showing those videos of that event. But you don't want to wait for that. Live, you can go live there in Chicago and watch it, but more importantly, we are live streaming that here from lawofficer.com. You can go to lawofficer.com/WinX to get your pass to watch that event. And not only will you watch that event, which is 9 speakers of the greatest speakers that are known to our community right now, that will each speak for 18 minutes long about a topic that literally is just dramatic. And if you're familiar with the TED Talks in the business world, that's what WinX is. We're going to be bringing up 9 speakers to you, 18 minutes each, and they're going to be bringing it. And you will not want to miss this. Our own Jonathan Parker, one of our authors, will be presenting. Mike Mitchell, Joe Willis, a host of people, and it's going to be phenomenal. And I can't say enough of how important it is for you to get that pass. For just $29, you can get an individual pass to not only watch the speakers, but you're going to watch backstage content coming from us. We're going to be interviewing each speaker after they speak. We're going to be on the floor talking to the audience. It's going to be an all-day event, and you do not want to miss it. So be sure to check that out. And in fact, if you want to buy that for your entire department, it's just $99. Now, there's nowhere you're going to be able to get a bargain like that. So please do that. Support WinX. They're doing phenomenal things in this profession, and we can't wait to see you on April 25th. And now we're going to show you our video of the week that you may have seen, but we're going to give you a little different twist on it that you probably haven't heard. So here it is.
Isn't that right? Can't the pilots drive to Louisville? Can't they rent a car for the pilots and have them drive? Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God! No! My guys! My God! What are you doing? No! This is wrong! Oh my God! Look at what you're doing to him! Oh my God! Oh my God!
Good work. Way to go.
This is horrible. Oh my God.
Yeah, the police grabbed the guy.
Jesus.
He's an older doctor. He wouldn't get off the plane.
Oh my.
And so they forced him off.
Well, there you have it. You've probably seen it before. We're in studio with Jason Muse, our resident tactical expert, SWAT operator, full-time police officer. Jason, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
And we watched that video, and of course everybody has seen that video. They probably haven't heard the entire context of the video, but as a law enforcement professional of over a decade, when you see that video, what goes through your mind?
Well, we see that scenario play out time and time again at work every day of someone who is on private property who doesn't want to do something that the owners of that private property want them to do, and they essentially throw a fit like a 2-year-old. They shut down, they go internal, and they just abandon all reason and logic that we would understand as an adult, and begin throwing a fit. And it makes it tough for law enforcement or security personnel who are there to be able to respond to them in an effective manner that doesn't injure the person. They use as little force as possible to resolve the situation, but it always plays out poorly. I mean, I heard a woman in there screaming, "What are you doing to him? How could you do this to him? Look at what you're doing." And you know, it's easy when you have a 2-year-old that's throwing a fit. You can just scoop them up and take them with you. It's much harder when it's a full-grown adult.
Well, the first thing I thought of is this guy's getting the play of a victim. You know,
Sure.
Everybody's feeling sorry for this doctor, who, by the way, from what I understand, has been convicted of multiple drug offenses in the past. We'll let the other media talk about that, but it's not like he's some innocent person. What people don't understand is when you step onto that airplane, you're no longer in the bowels of the United States Constitution, you know, laws of whatever city you're in. You're bound by the federal law and federal government of the FAA.
Sure.
And that law essentially says if a representative from that airplane or airport tells you to do something, there's no debate. You know, there's no, I have these rights. Things are done for various reasons, and you know, United has, you know, they have a PR issue with this, obviously.
Sure.
But I've been asked to leave a plane because it was overbooked. I have voluntarily given my seat because it was overbooked. I watched them drag another policeman out of a plane because they found something on his luggage, which happened to be a simunition gun, and they dragged him off that plane.
Sure.
And there's no arguing. You just do what they say, because that's what happens inside the bounds of an airport and an aircraft, and those rules are very stringent. So we can have that debate on whether they should have kicked him out or not, or why'd you kick the doctor out. But the fact is, it's not up to us to just go, I'm not going, and act like a little child is what you saw. He's the one that placed, whether those were officers or security guards, I don't quite know. He's the one that placed them in that position.
Sure, and it's tough. I prior to coming in civilian law enforcement, I was in law enforcement in the military, and we transported prisoners all around the country. And that was one of the things you understood very quickly, is because of the special nature of flying on an aircraft. It's something that we all learned far too well on September 11th. The pilot and the airline has to have ultimate authority in that aircraft and up in the air, and that they have to be able to make those decisions to keep everybody else on that plane safe. And while other passengers are protesting what they were doing, while other passengers are videoing it and making funny little comments about what's happening, they just don't seem to understand that the airline has the ultimate responsibility of caring for everybody on that plane, getting them to where they're going safely. And sometimes that reality is they have to do things that are otherwise unappealing to most people in society. And it's tough. I mean, it is a hard environment to work in. It is like I say, you have to understand when you step on an airplane that you give up certain protected rights that you would have outside of that aircraft. And I mean, I've been removed from planes because the pilot didn't want us traveling at that particular time. We said, okay, we understand. The airline worked to get us on a different flight that met their needs and their criteria, and we moved forward. And that's something that as a professional we understand rationally, but a lot of times an average person, a person out in the community, just gets upset. They internalize, they take it personally, and then they revert back to childish behavior, throw a fit, and that's the end result. The professionals that are there that are responsible for security of that aircraft and everybody on board then have to take action and do what's reasonable to get that person off.
Yeah, the other thing that I think of when I watch that is they were doing the best they could to get him off that airplane with the least amount of injury or force. And what they were doing is they were just having to drag him. And they weren't jerking him around. They were just dragging him because he was just ridiculously not wanting to comply, as a grown adult should. And the gasp of the audience and the outrage of the country right now over this video shows me of why literally people cannot handle police videos.
Sure.
I mean, because that video was nothing compared to what sometimes law enforcement is placed in positions to do.
Well, and you have to understand the security personnel that were moving that gentleman from the aircraft, they were dealing with several issues. One is the resistance they were meeting. And so what people don't understand is when the gentleman was being dragged off, he was essentially a passive resistor, or just laying there and refusing to comply with what they were asking him to do. It appeared in the seat that he was engaging in active resistance, which is not striking the security personnel like what a lot of people think. It's just simply tensing up and giving some active resistance, tensing and refusing to go and comply with what they're telling him to do. And that's in a very small, very confined environment with people around. And imagine if that gentleman on the plane had some more sinister motive and was simply there as a diversion to draw the security personnel over to them, and then he had a co-conspirator somewhere else on the aircraft that would then attack those security personnel from behind. They have to think of that the entire time they're there. Is this simply an adult acting like a child, or is this some ruse to draw us out to then expose us to an attack from where we're not able to focus on? And so those guys fight that the entire time, trying to maintain situational awareness, trying to remove the burden and still get the aircraft back up in the air, because there are the people on the other end of that flight that are waiting for that plane to get there so they can disembark, so they can get on to where they're going. All this is being delayed.
That's the interesting part, is everybody that's making a big deal and are so upset, outraged that this man refused to do what was asked on the airplane. They have not offered any other solutions, because here's what would have happened. If he would have said, no, I'm not leaving, well, everyone else would have said, no, we're not leaving, because they'd already asked for voluntary people, and they offer pretty good incentives for that, by the way, free tickets or whatever, even cash sometimes. So everyone would have said no. The flight crew that were trying to get on the airplane would not have been able to get on the airplane, and then guess what would have happened? An entire flight later on with over 100 passengers would not have been able to leave.
Sure.
So no one's really offering another solution. And probably, although it looks bad for United, that probably was the only solution they had. And by the way, I've been removed off flights before, and you know why I was the first guy they came to? Because I was the dummy that showed up 30 minutes for the flight to check in. And they usually go by who's checking in last as far as the priority. So it wasn't like they just picked on this guy. He probably showed up, knowing how irresponsible he looked like there, he probably showed up right next to last through the security gates to barely get on his flight. And because he checked in last, he was the first to go, is how it usually works. But it really does kind of show me because we see police videos all the time that as police officers we go, well, that's proper, that's within law, that's within policy, and then we get people that get upset. And this really gives you an example of something that is really nothing when you look at it. Something could look bad, but it could be perfectly right, and people just go absolutely bonkers. And so in that sense, it tells me that we may never have a chance when it comes to video and police. We got to do the best we can to explain things.
Well, it's tough, and I think this is a good step in that direction of educating the public. I mean, one of the things that jumped out to me, I saw reports that the guy was bleeding as he was being dragged out, and I've run into that in my career as well. When you are physically wrestling or struggling with someone in a close and enclosed environment, right? That is the nature of the business. I mean, when you're in that close of quarters and when there are hard metal objects around and he's flopping around, like say, if this was a 2-year-old throwing a fit like this, we'd be able to just go in, scoop them up, and carry them out safely. You can't do that with a full-grown man. I mean, it's just not, especially in that confined space. There's no way to safely extract that person. We've had to extract protesters in the past in open field environments where we were able to get in safely, pick them up, and have methods for extraction that protected the suspect and the officers. That's just virtually impossible in that small enclosed environment like the capsule of an aircraft.
Our article of the week, it's titled Hidden Figures of the First Responder Profession. It's about dispatchers. This week is National Telecommunications Week, where we honor all of our dispatchers. And I love the title of the article by our newest author, Jonathan Parker, who will be at WinX 2017, called Hidden Figures of the First Responder Profession. And it's because they're behind the mic, but they're often not recognized. And I wanted to kind of give this moment to let you give a shout out to all of our dispatchers out there and what they mean to law enforcement.
Oh, I tell you, whether it's just the day-to-day operations and they keep us running smoothly, because oftentimes on the street we have stimulus that are overwhelming us and we need something to center us back to help us just get through the day. But more importantly for us is in critical environments, they're that calming voice on the other end of the radio that helps communicate what's happening to us out to other officers to get to us, that helps give us the information we need to make good choices and safely end whatever situation we're in the middle of. Those people are so invaluable to us in law enforcement, and we can't say enough for them. Like I say, they're oftentimes not seen, they're not out in the community wearing a uniform, but without our communications people, without them being trained professionally and supported, we would never be able to do our job.
Let me encourage everybody in our audience, especially those in law enforcement, at some point this week, just walk into your dispatch center and say thank you.
Sure.
Because they literally are not recognized. We often don't think of them, even after critical incidents. They've had critical instances as well, and they're not usually involved in that process. And I can't thank dispatchers enough for what they do. I sort of relate them to referees on a ball field. If the referees aren't doing a good job, it screws everything up. And we don't often recognize referees, right? So, boy, they are very valuable to us, and I can't think of them enough.
Oh yeah.
Now, we finally got you off the corner here of writing for us here at Law Officer. I've been talking to you for some time. You obviously are a regular guest here on Law Officer Live. I've been trying to coax you into writing because I know you've got a lot of things up in that head we got to get out to people. And you finally wrote your first article. And your first article, we talk about coming out of the gate strong and hard. I think this is going to resonate with a lot of people. It's called Desk-Bound: Law Enforcement Standing Up to a Setting World. What inspired you to write this, really, which I think is an incredible article that our audience can go look at right now at lawofficer.com?
Well, I struggled with this issue for years, and there's always been a missing piece to me. I read this book several months ago, and as I'm going through the book, it's just as if the pieces started to fall into place. Dr. Kelly Starrett, who has a program out in California, wrote this book about how to stand up to a sitting world and why it's important. You know, the issue of standing up is one to say stop creating the dysfunction that causes all the problems we have in life. But for us in law enforcement, we deal with them in a in an exponential way, one that the average citizen doesn't see, because we put on external loads, we put on vests, we put on belts, we force ourselves into vehicles for most of our day, and we really don't have a way to recover from that. We haven't had a way to help identify what's causing our problems, how to recover from that, and then how to have a path to move forward to health and wellness. And this book really highlighted that for me.
You mentioned in the article, I thought it was outstanding, because you talk about being a former college athlete yourself, and you said when you came into law enforcement, it was a starking difference in how you were treated.
Sure.
In college, as an athlete, they treated you such that you were a valuable part of that team.
Sure.
And then you come into law enforcement, and all of a sudden they almost ignore the issues that they would pay attention to as a college athlete. And you call law enforcement tactical athletes. Kind of talk to us about that terminology.
Sure. Well, in athletics, your body is your commodity, and how well it performs during the given event is the ultimate test of if your body was ready or if it wasn't ready. And so there's a real mechanism for identifying what you need to do to prepare your body, and if you're doing enough to give you some feedback on what you need to do moving forward. In law enforcement, we don't necessarily have that, and it makes it tough for us to realize that our police officers' bodies are their most valuable commodity, because when that body breaks down, it affects their judgment, it affects their reaction time, it affects their ability to even get up and come to work. And we've invested all this time, all this money in these officers. That they are the core of our department, and without giving them the capsule to be able to perform and come to work every day and maintain a career of 20 years plus, which is what we're asking of these guys, we're really setting ourselves, our departments, and our communities up for failure. And so the big issue for me is that if we could somehow find a way to see police officers as tactical athletes and stop seeing them as simply report takers that we dress up in these big fancy clothes and give a gun to, then I think we would start to see the mechanism that so many professional sports teams, that the military has started to embrace. And you know, we get most of our lessons from the military. We just get them a decade or two later. Hopefully we can speed that mechanism up a little bit with this issue and say, our people are too important. We can't have officers walking around complaining of sore backs, sore knees, sore shoulders, and having a lot of the non-contact injuries that we're seeing. And this book helps lay out a blueprint for how to identify those issues, fix them, and move forward in a healthy way.
Some of the things I've seen over my last couple of decades in the profession was a lot of back injuries, a lot of shoulder injuries.
Sure.
And I guess that the book sort of talks about why some of that's going on.
It does. Well, so if you understand, and this really hit home with me as a father with a young child, that in first grade we start jamming kids into desks in schools, and we tell them to sit down. And so as they sit down, and we make them stay there the entire day, stop fidgeting, stop talking, follow the rules, at a very young age, we begin to build in that dysfunction. We put them in shoes to get them to school. We build in that dysfunction. And so what happens is we collapse their structure, it becomes unsupported, their shoulders round forward, their back hunches, we collapse their diaphragm, they get a very inefficient way to breathe. And it starts to set in motion this cycle of dysfunction and pain and discomfort. And as you start to bulge your discs and round your spine, then we oftentimes will have people stand up, sit up straight, and they'll overextend the other way, essentially running on their stops. Kind of like driving your car with the brake on. You're jamming it all the way to the other end, and it causes dysfunction the other way. And so as we've done that to people throughout their life, when they get into law enforcement, they've just about used up all their useful cycles of movement in their body. And so now we get them into law enforcement, and we put a vest on them, we put a gun belt on them, even adding things as heavy as SWAT vest and other really heavy items we're putting on them on an unsupported structure. If we don't teach our officers how to reclaim a good neutral position, how to tighten their core, how to use that core to support their spine, how to get their hips underneath them, how to have a good stable walking platform so that their knees don't hurt, their feet don't hurt. And I can't tell how many officers I talk to that have plantar fasciitis, hammer toe, bunions, all kinds of problems down there. And instead of fixing that, instead of finding out why it's happening, we just simply go pay a ton of money for orthotic shoes, for insoles, for all kinds of things that just want to help make the dysfunction more manageable. And that's a terrible way to treat our officers. We've got to help them identify where the dysfunction comes from, how to fix it so their back won't hurt anymore. You know, oftentimes when my back hurts, it has very little to do with my back. It has to do more with my core, and I'm not actually supporting my structure properly. And so just fixing that will be a huge difference in our world.
I walked into a fire chief's office. I don't know if I walked in his office, but I found out about it. His name was Tom Baker. He was a local fire chief. And it was 20 years ago. He was at a stand-up desk. And of course, 20 years ago, we never saw stand-up desks. The companies that make them now that are out there, they didn't exist back then. And I asked him, I said, why do you have a stand-up desk? And he goes, oh, it's easy, Travis. That way when people come in here for meetings, they don't want to stay long because they have to stand up. And I thought it was hilarious, but probably without even knowing it, he was doing something that today we see as a healthy thing. Do you think it's as simple as our officers that aren't in cars, obviously, but that are in offices or desks to just stand up rather than sit?
Well, it certainly is. I mean, the issue with the dysfunction that we build in comes from collapsing our structure. By standing up, our bodies are made to stand up. Our bodies are made to be supported by standing up. When we sit down or lay down, that's giving our body an indication it's time to shut down and rest.
Right.
And so we don't want guys to shut down and rest at work, but we do that to detectives. We do that to administrative personnel. We shove them into offices, collapse their structure, tell them it's time to shut off. Mm-hmm. And by standing up, by helping them reclaim that good neutral position, we help re-engage them, turn them back on, get them healthy. And that's a huge problem. When you see people not wanting to stand up, wanting to get out of a standing environment, it's because they're not properly supported and they're feeling the discomfort of the collapse and of the dysfunction that's been created from sitting down for so long.
In your article, one of the photos was provided by the Tulsa Police Department. And I know you've been integral in the stand-up desk technology, you and the fitness unit there. And they provided a photo of one of the officers. They're standing up, doing their job. Have you seen the department embrace that? You see this popping up around this department and other departments?
Well, we're early on right now, and the core of this book started out in California with Dr. Starrett's child school. They received grant money and funding to be able to provide stand-up desk for that school. And so we're early on in the process in the Tulsa Police Department.
Elementary school?
At school.
I haven't even read the book, but did it help with behavior issues?
Oh, so that's always a huge issue is, stop fidgeting, stop messing around. Yeah. One of the things they recommend with the standing desk is a fidget bar underneath, and I forget the exact number just offhand, but the book says that the majority of behavior issues went away just because of that simple fidget bar, because we're not asking little kids to stop fidgeting. That's inherent in their nature. They're healthy, they're young, they still want to move. We haven't crushed them yet with all society brings.
Well, I got to tell you, I played with this fidget bar because there's a desk, an officer I know that has one, and I couldn't stop playing with this stupid thing. My kids have these fidget little things, but this thing was awesome, and it was like pretty cheap too.
Well, and so that speaks to the increase in productivity that you see when you get officers standing back up, when you stop shutting them down and collapsing their system. We now re-engage them, get them back up, and productivity goes up because their brains are still working. Give them a little fidget bar to be able to relieve the pressure on their hips.
Did you ever think that as law enforcement professionals we'd be having a discussion about fidget bars?
No, it's something we should have figured out years ago. Thankfully, there are people like Dr. Starrett out there addressing these issues, bringing them to the forefront, and it's incumbent on us as law enforcement professionals to go find these people, embrace their concepts, figure out how they help the officers, how we keep it from being crippled 20, 30 years after doing this job, because that is, we already promised to give our life if need be. We should not also say, and I agree to be crippled when I walk away from this job. That's just unfair.
I love the article. Everyone needs to check it out. If you have experience at this, at this stand-up desk or this philosophy this article talks about, man, we want to hear from you. Yeah. If you need some help on where to find some of the equipment, like the fidget bar and things like that, send us an email to lawofficer.com. So go to the website, go to the contact page. We'll get it over to Jason, and he can answer that. It's great stuff, man. I appreciate you writing it.
Thank you.
And you also introduced us to a company called BeaverFit USA. They were in studio a few weeks ago, and we did some filming with them. We're going to play that video here in a minute, but it's phenomenal stuff. So let's go ahead and watch the video, and then we'll come back and we'll have a quick discussion about that. Welcome to Law Officer TV. I've got an interesting guest for you today. Scott Wing is here. He's the government account manager with BeaverFit. And if you're not familiar with what BeaverFit is and about the unique name, you're about to find out. Scott, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you, Travis. Thanks for having me.
Now, tell our audience a little bit about what BeaverFit is.
Sure. So our product is functional training lockers. At the core, it is a shipping container that has a steel workout rig attached to the side of it, and a loadout of fitness accessories that come standard inside of it.
So it's like a big locker, the equipment's in there, and I guess people can go mobile with this equipment.
Correct. So obviously it's a standard shipping container in various sizes, quad con, which is a 5-foot container, all the way up to a 20-foot container, full Connex box. We can get you a 40 if you want to go up to a 40-foot. But I would say probably the standard size that we sell the most of is going to be our 10-foot locker. And again, that is just a standard shipping container that can easily be moved.
How in the world did this idea develop? I mean, it's so unique. I know you're very successful around the world, literally. How did this idea come about?
Sure. So the namesake of the company, and this gets into a little bit of the name as well. Beaver is actually a family name. The company started in 2010 over in the UK. In the 60s, this guy named Jim Beaver started a bridge building business over in the UK. Right. He had 3 sons. The middle son, Tom Beaver, was in the British SAS. So he got out, went to work on the family farm, they call it, where they do all this designing and building of the bridges. His contacts at the British Army asked him to come up with a design of a deployable fitness center for an upcoming deployment to Iraq. He started tinkering around with some steel rigging that he was actually using to prepare himself for an ultra triathlon. Saw a shipping container and kind of had the visual of putting the steel attached to a container. And that's how the idea got started.
So what year was this? You said a deployment to Iraq. Was it what?
2010.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And then the concept, so BeaverFit North America stood up in 2014.
So was there a connection made with this UK soldier and some American soldier to kind of mold this together?
Correct. So he made contact with the 2 of our owners, a guy named Alex Drudhouse and Mike Taylor, who were both Brownwater Navy guys over in Iraq. They met together there, met up with them, and the idea was then brought here to North America.
I have to just imagine this conversation, like this guy from the UK, obviously he's running ultra marathons or whatever, so he's just military fit guy from UK, and he sits across the table or whatever with these American soldiers and talks about a shipping container with fitness equipment. That is so outside the box. What made these 2 American soldiers go, I don't even know if they had any entrepreneurial experience before that or business experience. I mean, what made these guys go, yeah, we think that's going to work?
Well, at that time that conversation took place, there had already been some success in the marketplace, mainly over in Europe, in the UK. So there was that notoriety over there. There was already a track record of success already in place. It was just a matter of getting that idea here to the States and getting our military kind of bought into the idea and getting it rolling here.
So they say it's hard. It's obviously hard to break into the military, law enforcement, fire, or whatever. It helped to have the 2 owners military, currently deployed. What was their first big win? When did they finally, get that big sell or get that big buy-in from a military branch to go, man, this is really going to work here?
Sure. In 2014, it was actually the Marine Corps.
It has to be the Marine Corps.
Right.
Yeah.
That actually kind of got them the stability to be able to branch out further. So we are very, unless you want to do it yourself, that's fine too. But yes, all your bumper plates, barbells, kettlebells, medicine balls, all that is made to be inside that container. So you don't have to lug all that stuff from inside the building back out there and back each time. Everything stays right there. All of the steel work is actually hot dip galvanized.
So you guys do that in-house, all of this in-house, right? You're not sourcing this out.
Correct. Well, we don't do the galvanization in-house. That goes out. We call it to Galvi, and then comes back. But that's what makes the product weatherized, in order to be outside that whole time, is that we do run it through that hot dip galvanization process prior to the powder coating. So it is going to be out there, and with that, we're able to offer a 10-year warranty on all of our steel work, which is the best you're going to find.
That's unbelievable. You know, and I think of some of these outdoor gyms, especially in Southern California, not many outdoor gyms here, but with the container, all of a sudden you can have an outdoor gym because, you know, the cold winter months, couple months a year, you can keep everything stored away and then you can break everything out. But I do love the idea of it gets people in a more of an inexpensive fashion. You don't have to build a building and put equipment in it. You can literally put this container anywhere. And I got to think there's got to be a crazy guy somewhere to put this in his backyard, right? Somebody somewhere has had to have done it.
We have, actually, there was a former Dallas Cowboy
That's what I'm talking about, yeah.
Bo Morgan.
Yeah. I don't know who he is, but the fact that his name is Bo tells me he's a badass, right? Yeah.
So he didn't get a full-on container, but we did build him a freestanding rig in his backyard.
That's what I'm talking
about. We actually came out, poured a concrete pad, worked with him on a design. I'd actually incorporated some play aspects for his kids, so he could be out there hitting squats, doing deadlifts, pull-ups, rope climbs, while his kids were playing.
I totally don't like this guy because I can't afford to do what he just did, and I want to do it.
We can customize that, so we can make that. We can powder coat it in any color you want. We can put your unit logo specific to you on the side, and we can also customize the accessory loadout that comes with it as well. We have a standard loadout that we think is a pretty well-rounded offering of barbells, bumper plates, kettlebells. There's some soft tissue massage recovery type.
So people could call you and say, man, I need something for 20 people. What do you have? And you have these packages ready to go, essentially.
Correct. Or you can scrap that all together.
Just build it yourself.
And you tell me what you want to do, and I can tell you what equipment is going to be best for that. We work with a number of different suppliers. So if you are attached to, you know, Alico plates, or you like, you know, this particular road,
you got to be able to throw them on the ground and let them bounce, right?
Right.
And you got to measure the bounce rate of it. Right?
Exactly.
Even if you're only lifting 50 pounds, as long as you can throw it on the ground and grunt, it makes sense, right?
That's half of it. Yeah.
That's right. It's all about the cool factor. Well, man, listen, I thank you for your service in the Marine Corps. My father was a Marine, Vietnam veteran. I grew up in that environment with him, and I can't thank you enough. And it's awesome that you have you're here and you're able to impact law enforcement. Obviously, you've been impacted in the military, but we're very excited about it being in the law enforcement world. But you're not just in law enforcement. You've done this for the private industry as well. And I'm going to kind of give you a hint here. I understand that you've done a lot of build out for Google. So tell us how that kind of went down and how that has been for you.
Correct. So back it up a couple steps and it'll make sense. So we have an education partner that we work with named Exos. And Exos, if you're not familiar, they help run the Thor 3 program that the SOCOM community does all of their physical training with. They run the NFL combines, so they're supplying all the coaches for those programs as well. But another aspect of what Exos does is a corporate wellness division as well. And Google happened to be one of their customers in the corporate wellness side.
Because these 20-year-old kids need more than a ping pong table on their spare time.
Exactly, yeah. So they, you know, Google has a huge campus down in Mountain View, California, and they have a bunch of other satellite campuses all around. So when they go to Exos, say, hey, we want to build up this gym, Exos says, hey, well, I got an equipment provider for you.
Nice.
So they come to us.
That had been a great day when you got that phone call.
Oh,
right?
my Lord.
Yeah.
So we have actually done lockers outside, so 10-foot lockers outside for them. We've done full-on custom rig build-outs in the Google colors, that yellow, blue, green. You know, they challenge us with designing new things each time for them, which keeps us on our toes. But we have just incredible pictures of half racks that we've done, full racks. If you follow BeaverFit on Instagram or Facebook, you can go on there and see a lot of the work that we've done for them. We've the most recent corporate partner we've worked with is American Express in the new World Trade Center building out in New York.
They better pay you in 30 days or else, huh?
Right?
Yeah.
So it's that level of corporate partner that we've done work with.
That helps you
as
play
well,
around the law enforcement field by getting those kind of partners. Right?
Sure.
That's
I
great.
mean, I think it adds to the credibility of who we are, and yeah, it just helps tell the story.
That's nice, man.
That
have you broke into any of the college sports elements of college? Because obviously, you know, the gyms are just tremendous in some of the schools that you see out there. Have you been able to work with any of them?
Sure, most definitely. The biggest project we have to date is actually in West Virginia. The Mountaineers, I believe they are.
They have
out there.
sports there?
Yes.
Okay.
So we actually have a 10-foot locker with an extended rig off the back. So it's not just your standard locker with a rope climb. We actually went out 15, 20 feet, added a few more squat racks.
Yeah.
And it literally sits on the sideline of their practice field with a big West
Nice.
Virginia logo on the side of it. So we're definitely making a push into that realm as well.
Yeah, let me give you 3 letters. SEC.
Right.
You break into that with all the money that's floating around that. I actually mentioned that because I've seen some of the big SEC football teams actually do workouts with weights out on the football field itself.
Sure.
And this would obviously mix well with that because you know some freaking dude is hauling all that stuff out there.
Right.
You know, at some point.
So that's definitely on our radar. You know, we're a small team, so you got to give us time to get out there.
We'll not only give you time, but when you lock in that SEC conference, just be thinking of us, right?
We'll do.
Okay.
We'll do.
Well, man, something that's really cool on the scene that I'm a big fan of is the Spartan races and the obstacle courses, and you've kind of got your finger on that too. Like you've got your finger on everything, which is awesome. But tell us about kind of the obstacle course type environment out there and what you've done with that.
Sure. So we actually just completed our first obstacle course, just last month. That was an idea that started down in Kirtland Air Force Base with the PJ Schoolhouse down there. And we were talking to the senior master sergeant who's in charge of the school. Just started talking about what he wanted. So what are the operational requirements that those students need to go through? And they need to crawl under a net. They need to go through some confined spaces. They need to get over a wall. They need to do all this in their gear as well. So we created a couple lanes of same obstacles so they can run multiple people through it, and came up with 16 different options for them. And the sequencing from upper body challenges to lower body challenges to cardio challenges, pulling, pushing, you name it.
Right.
And it was really born out of a collaboration with the guy that ran the school there, and we just simply brought his idea to life. So we have this end product now, this obstacle course that we just built out there, and I actually have a really great presentation I can show you that has literally the drawing and then the actual picture.
Well, it's important for people to know, because I know there's a lot of SWAT teams, a lot of departments that would like to get some sort of obstacle course for their cadets or tactical folks or whatever it may be. And what they need to understand is man, you don't want to just send a couple dudes out there with some nails and hammer and some wood and build something, because there needs to be structure to it. There needs to be, it needs to be built in a fashion where it's going to be safe for the most part. I mean, you can't make anything safe. It's an obstacle course, but we don't want to get our officers out there or our tactical folks out there and then something goes wrong because of the structure. And the beauty of partnering with you is you can bring the structure and the build through engineering where you know it's going to be the safest product possible, so it's going to help with liability and everything else.
Correct. I personally didn't realize all the ground prep work that had to go in before we even started digging any holes and putting any posts in the ground. So we can work with you through that process as well. We can work with any size space, and we understand that not everybody's going to have a quarter of a mile to work with.
Right.
So maybe you can only put 4 or 5 obstacles as opposed to 16 out there. But you just pick and choose which ones will work for you. If you have some ideas on what you want to have them do, you just let us know and we can bring it to life for you.
I know one of the needs from the SWAT community is rappel towers. The last thing you want to do is a bunch of cops to run out there and build a rappel tower, because that could be highly dangerous. But do you have any experience in building things like that for others?
Sure. So our partners over in the UK actually just built one.
But they do it in meters, right? I mean, we need to get some good feet.
Yeah, we can translate it.
Okay,
we can translate it. So they actually just built one out for the Royal Marine Commandos out there. And
I don't know what that is, but it sounds badass.
It is. It is.
Royal Command,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
There's skulls and daggers, and so we can go one of two ways with it. We can either stack shipping containers which actually adds some really cool training modalities as well. So we can put stairwells inside the container to get up to the top. We can put catwalks around the outside. We can put spiral staircases. We can put breaching windows. We can line it with ballistic walls. We can cut shooting apertures out of the sides of the containers. We can put all types of helo skids at different heights off of them. Nice. And then you get to the top, and there's a big platform up there with fast roping, insertion extraction bars, covered area, hell holes to go down, you name it. Or we can do a complete freestanding structure where there's no real shipping containers involved. It's just zigzagging stairwells up the top. You tell us what height it needs to be, and we can work on the design. Tell us what features you want it to have on it, and
man,
it's really up to you. It's really up to the customer.
Obviously, BeaverFit, amazing concept. You're doing amazing work around the globe. We can't thank you enough for taking that and bringing that to the law enforcement community, where we desperately need this type of outside-the-box training, outside-the-box thinking. We can't thank you enough. Thank you for your service in the Marine Corps, sir. Thank you for what you're doing now with BeaverFit, and just tell everyone associated with it that we can't thank them enough.
All right, thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you for watching Law Officer TV. You joined us here with BeaverFit. They are damn strong as their logo, and Scott Wing with them. Thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you next time. That's BeaverFit USA. Damn strong is their moniker. Jason, I love this company. You introduced this company to us a few weeks ago, and it's just, you heard the video. It's just cool, man. It's just cool. What do you think? Can this technology help us in the profession?
Oh, it's an incredible resource. They are an incredible asset to our community. The thing that drew me to them is their functional fitness approach. And so as we look at what our dysfunction is, how to correct that dysfunction, and then how to move forward in a way that supports us in law enforcement, these guys fit in incredibly. I mean, these BeaverFit takes the concept of just a Connex box and attaches functional training equipment to it, whether it's for physical fitness, whether it's an operational kit, like where you can use breaching doors, you can climb, you can do whatever you need to do, you can fast rope or rappel from these things. They will work with, and that's one of the things that drew me to them, is that they will work with the end user to develop the training rig, the training platform that meets your needs as the end user.
Now, as he talked about, they're big in the military, and the military is just to brace them, no holds barred. And of course, they're dumping these in the middle of the desert, in the Middle East, and sand, and it's phenomenal functionality for the military. Do you see that transition into law enforcement?
Well, so our issues in law enforcement, one is one of the nice things about this is you don't have to have a building or a structure for your workout facility. You can take the Connex box, put it in an open field, put it anywhere, and so you're not having to spend a lot of money on facilities. You just get the training system where you're at. The issue that we have that the military has addressed, and I think I would love to see get addressed in law enforcement, is the military has dedicated funding for fitness, because they understand that their soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines are their most valuable commodity. We need to come to that reality in law enforcement, that our officers are our most valuable commodity, and dedicate funding to their health and wellness and fitness, so that when we need equipment, it's not if we'll get the equipment, it's just when the funds are available. Right now, without dedicated funding for equipment, it makes buying the right equipment and driving these programs much more difficult. Not impossible, but just more difficult.
I think what people don't understand, especially administrators, is if you spend the money up front and you get the proper workout equipment, you have the proper workout regimen, you're going to save money in the end through less workers' comp issues, less injuries, less career disabling injuries.
Well, so what's killing us is a lot of non-contact injuries. There are some really good studies going on right now. One from the FMS people, from the functional movement people, who do a screening to identify people who are at risk and how to reduce those risks from non-contact injuries that we see so many law enforcement officers fall victim to every year. But the other truth is, when you talk about reducing risk for agencies, is if we can keep officers healthy and moving, they'll perform better out on the street. Healthy officers, functional officers, make better decisions under stress. Yeah. And that's why we really want to train officers in a safe and controlled environment to prepare them for what they're going to have to do on the street in an unknown and unknowable environment. where they don't know who they're going to fight, how they're going to fight, how many people, what weapons will be involved, what other things are going to happen. We've got to prepare them for that and get them as ready as possible so they can make good decisions under stress. So many times it's not the use of force that got an officer or an agency in trouble. It was the split-second decision they had to make in a tense and rapidly evolving, rapidly changing environment. And so we want those officers to make the very best decision they can, and that starts at the very fundamental level of having these officers be as healthy and well prepared as possible before they ever hit the street. And that's what BeaverFit does, is give you a chance to do that and help prepare the very best officer you can for what you're going to go ask them to do.
It all makes sense. I agree with you. But it seems like so much of the philosophy in law enforcement is to get by with the very least, get by with the cheapest, don't do it unless it's mandated. And we just have not gotten to that level of greatness in the profession. How do we get there?
Well, it has been, but this is the first step, is bring awareness to it, understanding the benefits to not only the department, the city, but the community as a whole. You know, everybody that's coming in, everybody that's served by our law enforcement professionals around this country. We just got to draw awareness to it. We've got to partner with people like BeaverFit, with the people they work with. We've got to talk with Dr. Start and bring in mobility specialists, health and wellness specialists to help start making our officers the officers we want them to be. You know, that's one of the big issues that came up as we talk about in law enforcement. Unlike the military, when you go into selection process in the special operations community, they can weed you out, they can set whatever standards they want and say, we only accept this percentage of the population that comes in. We don't have that luxury in law enforcement for several reasons. One, we're a civilian institution, and so we have different rules than the military does. They're allowed to discriminate in certain ways because that's for good order and discipline of the military. We don't have that luxury, number one, in law enforcement, but two, we're asking average everyday people to come put on a uniform, to come strap a gun on their hip and go out and try to protect our community. And that has invaluable benefits to our community. By bringing in representatives from the community, it makes us a stronger police department, a stronger community. But with that comes an obligation to help those people prepare the best they can, because they may not be special forces candidates. They may be your average housewife, or your typical stay-at-home dad, or who knows where they're coming from. They may have had a desk job before, may have no athletic background. It's our responsibility to prepare them to be the best advocates and best servants of their community possible. And that all starts with raising awareness, funding it, training them, keeping them healthy, and figuring out how to turn them into the best version of themselves possible.
Obstacle courses are hugely popular around the country, whether it's the Spartan races or the Beast races. A lot of law enforcement folks participate in those. You're a fan of the obstacle courses. You're a fan of that being part of the fitness regimen in law enforcement. Kind of talk to us about that.
Well, obviously, the big push, the big drive for Spartan races, Tough Mudders, Battle Frog challenges, you name it. I mean, they go by a host of names, but the reality is the reason they're so popular is because they're fun. They bring out the kid in all of us, and that should be a component of what encourages us and drives us to move forward. For us in law enforcement, the thing the military saw years ago and has understood for generations, the thing that we need to start embracing in law enforcement is it is a very functional test of the core components that we're going to be asked to do. I mean, when I came on the police department at early on in my career, it was foot chases, jumping fences, running, jumping off the edge of things, up over things, climbing, crawling, doing whatever I could to try to catch someone who was committing a crime and hold them accountable in our public justice system. But we've got to prepare officers for that. We can't think that if I send someone to a gym and have them do 10 bench presses and 6 squats and 5 arm curls, that somehow is going to prepare them for running and jumping over a fence, pulling themselves up, jumping down off things. That kind of functional fitness and testing and training is something we need to do in a controlled, safe environment like an obstacle course, so we know, is what we're training them on in the gym, does it really translate to what we're going to ask them to do in the field? And then how do we prepare them mentally and physically to go out to the field to do it? And an obstacle course ties all those components together. It gives us a good litmus test of, are we training them properly, and are they really prepared to go out to the field to do what we're going to ask them to do?
Man, that's good stuff. And of course, you're a frequent guest here on Law Officer Live. We're going to continue Law Officer Live each week, but we're going to announce tonight that you're going to be hosting your own show on SWAT. We don't necessarily know the name yet, but it's going to be a show dedicated to the SWAT community. Kind of talk to our audience about it. It's going to be a weekly show.
Sure.
Every week, right here at lawofficer.com, and to kind of talk to our audience of what they should expect.
Well, I'm excited about the opportunity because the special operations community in general, the SWAT world, the tactical world, is kind of an underserved community. It's something we expect people to do. It gets a lot of play on television when you look at movies that come out of Hollywood. Obviously, it's one of the things that we glamorize, but the reality of the day-to-day operations, what equipment people need, what training they need, what the real impact of operations around the country are, that's something that we need to really dive into. Give members from the SWAT community around the country a place where they can write in, call in, say, hey, talk to us about these things. Here's what we're seeing in our community. What are other people seeing around the country?
Right.
And I think this is going to be a great opportunity for that. Give us a chance to talk with vendors about what products they're giving, what products are coming out for our community, and what things we like to see as the end users, so that companies can know here's what our community really wants to see. Here's what we need. Let's figure out how to get them the products they need to help them be successful and get home to their families at the end of the day.
Man, it's going to be exciting stuff. I know I can't wait.
Absolutely.
It's going to be awesome. No one's doing anything like it. We appreciate you doing it. Thanks for coming on today.
Glad to be here.
Jason Muse, our in-house SWAT expert, BeaverFit USA, all kinds of great stuff today. Thank you for joining us. Absolutely. We're humbled that you're watching. Join us each week. You've been watching Law Officer Live. My name is Travis Yates. We have Jason Muse in the studio today, and next week we're going to have more incredible stuff for you. So we look forward to seeing you each week on Law Officer Live. Thank you.